Good morning, Paul Dean here. Welcome to our Friday morning Smart Market call, 10 o'clock every Friday morning. We celebrate thought leadership on this call. We talk about the MX system, new resources, tips and tricks on the system. We do market updates. We talk about mills and supply. We've got wonderful industry guests. In fact, this week's guest is Tim Seims, who is the Director of Building Products Intelligence for John Burns Real Estate Consulting. John Burns, a very well-known industry consultant that talks a lot about real estate and then all the supply chain issues that feed it. So we're looking forward to that discussion. Tim, thanks for coming. Before we get started, I thought we'd talk a little bit about this week in materials exchange. I always say to Mike, I said, don't touch the paint because it's still wet. There's just a lot going on in the company and in the industry right now. With us specifically, we have continued user growth in our not only the buyer side but the seller side. On the geographic side, we're starting to expand all over the country. Our number of transactions have gone up on not only the buy side, the sell side, but what I now start to call the dual side, where we made national news a few weeks ago with product flowing back up the supply chain, and it continues to happen. Our customer mix, just to remind them a little bit, we sell to anybody that can buy full truckloads and rail quantities of commodity lumber. We've got about 20% of the users of the mills. Suppliers right now, we've got 23% are component guys, distributors another 20%, and LBM retail dealers another 40%, basically, with industrial coming up. Now, even those quantity numbers aren't current. That's just the distribution numbers that I wanted to show you. But to keep up with not only the user base and also the expanding products and geographies, our product development team has been working quite diligently. When we started this whole program, we started with what we called a one-to-one match engine. So in other words, you as a buyer had to put in your specific items that you were looking for, and they had to become a one-to-one match on the seller side for them to appear on your exchange. And that's wonderful on the transaction side, because when you get a match, the rest of the transaction just flows through the billing process, the logistics process, and all that. But it also was difficult to bring full visibility to what was on the platform. So we built something called active markets, and you guys have all seen this. I've shown it week in, week out now, where active markets enable you to click the box up here that says show active markets, and from there that will populate the whole screen with everything that is on the transaction or on the exchange. That has resulted in a really nice increase in views and a nice increase in orders, of course, because views translate to visibility on the platform, and those translate to orders. We talked a little bit about expanding categories. I'm going to give you a peek under the sheets. These are just what we're doing in the background as we're starting to build out our product categories. We're tinkering around with industrial and pallets. We have a lot of people coming to us from the lower grade markets, if you would, the number threes and whatnot, looking to build pallets. This enables us or requires us to build out some new product categories as we go. And again, I'm showing you working screens. Don't hold me to any of this, but I want to kind of show you what's going on behind the scenes as the wood industry, the lumber industry, starts to adopt and wake up to the fact that the information flow that's available can really benefit them. So we're reacting to that by starting to build out the platforms behind the scenes. Here's another example of potentially tinkering around with hardwoods, just as an example of yet more lumber product on the exchange. Again, these are just to show you what's possible on the exchange. We're not committed to these specific verticals as of yet, but they're all in the family of lumber information. So with this growth comes some challenges, right? We've got geographic challenges in terms of right now we have a 2,500 mile limit that we put on transactions for one viewer to see a supplier's offer. After 2,500 miles, it really doesn't make sense typically except maybe in this market where the logistics costs just kind of, they outweigh everything. So the logistics is a challenge, and then the supply side is a challenge. And I think Ashley talked last week, and he's going to talk a little bit today about his efforts to, I think we're going to head out in the field here a little bit, talk with some Southern Yellow Pine guys and other suppliers in the industry to make sure that we're selling from a full basket of material. It's been difficult as everyone is looking around for product. It's most visible when you're looking for it visibly on an exchange. If you don't see something, that's the same as what's going on in the marketplace where you're talking to your sales rep and he says, I just don't have it. On the exchange, you can see that. So, filling in the supply side is really an important part of what we're doing. And then, of course, the exchange itself creates lots of opportunities right now with technology and information flowing through the industry. And Mike coined a term a couple of weeks ago called the supply web. We're a supply chain driven industry, of course, like many others, but he mentioned the supply web. Now I'm a marketing guy. I kind of said, Mike, the web name that's been used, but it actually is pretty good indicator of what's going on. The supply chain up and down that complete strict supply is becoming much more broad-based in terms of information flow. We're still tied at the logistical end. You can't deliver trucks of lumber by drone, but you can deliver the information around, and then the logistics will follow. So we're really taking the lead on the information side of the industry. The original platform vision and design was by the guys you see here at the bottom of the screen. We're an established exchange model. Secure commerce has been being done on exchanges for a long time. We introduced the bid-ask process now to the lumber business, if you would. We introduced a whole new transaction flow where we're no longer talking cash discounts and dating and customers using the supply chain to float their inventory. This is a pay with order ship model, of course, and then all the information just gets tracked digitally downstream. Add on to that technical capability, and we just showed you the founders of the company who are experts in market trading, exchange technology, and finance infrastructure. You take that team right there, and then you apply it to the executives that have joined the company. And, we're all pretty well versed in supply chain and distribution. I used to run some big buying groups, retail operations, and the associations that actually service and supply the industry. We've got a tremendous MX team that's helping to drive the information flow through the industry. Now, the information flow, of course, consists of raw data. It's the transaction side. We've got the buyers and sellers information. We know where they're shipping from, where they're shipping to. We know when the product is going to move and at what price. And then, of course, all the logistics that are required to fulfill that. So the raw data is absolutely astounding that we're starting to capture. And I think that there's an insatiable appetite for this right now, and it's exciting. So we've got the delivery of the data on the MX platform, and then the communications itself. So you've got our live platform where you can see live pricing in real time. We've got industry experts that are starting to develop our MX channel of communications. And then, of course, we're developing our first annual conference Wednesday, October 27th in Chicago. So we're excited about all that. So, on the industry side, you've seen this over the last number of weeks. We've delivered lots of different speakers from lots of different areas of the business, and they've just been able to interpret the data that we're capturing and give their unique spin from their unique perspective on what's going on. So this SmartMarket call has evolved into, the materials exchange is evolving into an information provider and an information deliverer. You lay on top of that, the training that we're doing internally to help new users understand this capability. And it's a very powerful offering. And we do this really just for one set of people and companies. That's our customers, for their ultimate benefit. And then, of course, we do that with their input as well. Now to digress a little bit in terms of, this MX channel that I'm describing. Ashley started something, I don't know what it's been. I think you might be in your fourth issue now, Ash. with Matt Lehman every Thursday called Lunch with Lumbermen. And they do all sorts of stuff. It started off, Matt talks a lot about his graphs and his forecasting skills and products that he brings to the marketplace. A lot of people do a lot of the reporting in the traditional manner. Matt brings a forecasting perspective to things. So Ash and Matt have developed this really fast dialogue of back and forth. I was only tuned into this yesterday for about 20 minutes because I had a training call myself that I had to jump on. And in the brief 20 minutes I was on that call, these guys covered all the southern yellow pine inventories that were floating around in the nation and what that meant to the supply side. They talked about, will treated lumber actually lead a sell-off? Will that actually be what brings this bubble down a little bit? They talked about the commodity index. Is OSB becoming our new commodity index, similar to like a corn index and the other kinds of commodities in the market? We talked about the framing package index. We were talking about current events like the petroleum pipeline hack, and really, did that even have any short-term effects on transportation, moving truck around? And then if you don't even know what the effect of COVID's effects on backyard bankers, I'm not even going to tell you. You'll just have to tune in next week to hear about some of the very unique things that are going on in our society and how they actually affect the real world of lumber distribution and selling. So, Ash, of course, was not satisfied with just sticking with that one session. So he's developed now Lumber Insider, which is now added to the mix on every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And now he's got special guests Greg Riley and Matt Boehmer and himself talking about all things lumber and distribution. So it's a wonderful addition to how we're delivering this information. And hopefully, as end users, you're getting the benefit of it. We limit our Friday morning calls, the SmartMarket call, to our customers. So these two sessions that we just talked about are for the general public. They're live on LinkedIn. They're bringing lots of notoriety to and visibility to Materials Exchange while providing the industry with great information. And then our Friday morning smart calls, of course, provide kind of in-house information to our fraternity of users here. So it's an exciting time to be part of all of this. And right now, out of hair and makeup live is Ashley Beckholt. Ash, you there?
Yeah, Paul, can you hear me okay?
I can. Excellent.
All right, great. Look at, I love those slides. The genesis of MX Broadcasting Network is real simple. From being in the industry my entire life, there is no transparency, and that is for a reason. The buyers and sellers currently love to keep everybody in the dark a little bit. Guys like Tim and all that are out there giving great. I love seeing Tim's news out, and it's becoming better with people like Tim out there putting information out on social media every day. But the real purpose of the MX Broadcasting Network is to help anybody, whether they're sitting at a trading desk, they're a buyer at a retail lumber yard, a truss plant, a offsite building facility, an exporter, an importer. If they build 5 houses in 2 Montana and only can hear what they drive into town and hear, we want to make social media connect everybody to hear more about it. So we have 2 shows. I'm going to launch 2 more next week on Thursday. If we get enough people, we're going to do a Traders Talk on a Thursday afternoon where we kind of summarize everything once people get off the desk, what went on. And then Future Legends. We're going to bring some younger people on the buy and sell side in that are up and coming to talk about what their challenges and so forth on. So I'm in the process of developing those 2 shows on the MX Broadcasting Network. As Paul said last Wednesday, we talked about with our This Week in Lumber with Greg Riley and Matt Boehmer, what was going on. Hey, did something change this week? Because certainly when everybody went home last Friday, everything was going to 10,000, right? And we don't know what's going on yet because cash is still strong, but the futures did trade off. A couple topics we talked about. There was some prompter wood showing up at a few places. People still have a June order file, but every now and then, Matt and Greg said somebody's got a quick loading car. That's a little odd in my mind, but it's probably normal when you're trying to consolidate. Mill order files were still out to June, as I said. Inventory levels. Last week, everybody said, I only have 90 days of inventory. This week, everybody said, I have 90 days of inventory. So it slowed some of the buying down, although some things continued to move along. How is this affecting pro builders and everybody else? What I did notice is some of these pro builders, after we've been putting some stuff out, pro builders yards have launched some of their own shows, which is also good. Lunch with Matt Lehman, Lunch with Lumberman on Thursday. We talked about something really interesting I didn't even think about, and you can go back and look at our live rebroadcast that we had on that. Matt talked about where we came into the year with starts and where we're projected. And he challenged it to saying, I know we're projected at X, but do we really have enough logistics, labor, product to actually build X? So that may push back a little bit on some of the building if we can't actually get the product to the right people at the right time. We also said that there was a lot of multifamily jobs still sitting there ready to buy that hadn't yet with concrete poured. So there may be an underpinning to the market here too. So is it market going up and down? We don't know. We know we're in some type of consolidation. Then Matt finished it up looking at his framing index and some of his decision points. So on the platform this week, lots of OSB traded, a lot of Euro spruce, some US species, but the real fluid thing, and it makes sense because it's the biggest commodity, a lot of OSB moving back and forth, which as Mike can attest to, that's one of the things that we think is the perfect product from the platform. So if you have any questions, you can drop me a line, DM me on LinkedIn or send it something to my email, and I'd be glad to talk anything market that I know about. So Paul, back to you.
I appreciate that, Ash. So, a large part of what we do, of course, on the materials exchange side is on the transactional side, the buying and the selling side, but this is where the lumber and the product is moved back and forth across, through the industry, of course. On the home building side, on the residential side, the real estate side is really where it kind of comes out the end of the hose, if you would. And so we've got a great opportunity this morning to hear from Tim Seims, who is the director of the Building Products Intelligence Division of John Burns Real Estate. And Tim, welcome aboard. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike Wisniewski, who's going to continue on from here.
Thank you, Paul. And I am so excited to have Tim as a speaker today. The first thing, if you don't know who John Burns Real Estate Consulting is, you need to. They are a powerhouse juggernaut as far as information about the housing industry. And they're not a group that comes out and tells you, oh, this is what housing starts are and leaves it at that. They dive levels below that. And what this means or how this shows up, I'm going to give you one example. I was at a conference when John Burns himself was up speaking. He was talking about the rates that U-Haul charges along a particular lane. And he talked about the rate going from California to Austin, and from Austin to actually San Francisco, California to Austin, and Austin back to San Francisco. And you're like, well, why would you care about U-Haul rates? What it showed was the demand for U-Hauls was so great going from San Francisco to Austin, and there was basically no demand, almost free. You could get a U-Haul to go from Austin back to San Francisco. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out people are moving from San Francisco to Austin. Now, you can't find that in any government statistic. You have to dig deeper, and that's what John Burns Real Estate Consulting does. They go many levels below the surface and figure out what's really going on in real time. So with that, I want to welcome Tim.
Thanks for having me, everyone. I love what you're doing out there for the industry. And thanks for that introduction. I hope I can live up to that. I'm not John Burns, but we do have a lot of really cool deep dive data and anecdotal to kind of back it up, like the U-Haul data. And I think it's been a lot of fun to work with this team since I started in November.
Now, the thing you need to know about Tim personally is how close he is to the trees and how close, like, he really is to his product. That's a real tree behind him. That is not an actual backdrop. His office is a tree house in his backyard. It's quite possibly the coolest office in the world. And he's got it set up. Even if it rains, it might drip down a tree a little bit, but for the most part, he lives dry, high and dry up there.
That's right. Yep, it's a lot of fun. This tree house has gotten pretty famous in the last year.
Yeah. Okay. So look, I'm not going to go through where we're at today with housing starts and how we got here. That horse has been beaten to death many times. Here's what I want to know. What's changing because of where lumber prices are? I mean, we've seen this escalation of 100% in under 6 months. And if you go year to date, we're up, 600, 700% on certain items. So, and well, in just the last move here, and from March to where we're at today, are lumber prices affecting housing right now?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Because a lot of folks do focus on published numbers and stuff like that, but there's so much more to talk about. One of the biggest things that we're seeing, we do a survey every month, host of different. We do an LBM survey, so let me know if you want to be part of that. We do that every month, and then we do a builder survey. So 300 purchasing managers, GMs, division vice presidents. And this most recent one that we got back the raw data on this last week was the concerns over the appraisals. So, when prices are going up so much, the comps are super difficult for appraisers. They just don't have a way to make some of these things work. So folks are either having to come to the table with more money, or the builders aren't going to capitulate. So, or just walk away from the deal. Now, we haven't seen in that survey a lot of cancellations, but it's definitely an undercurrent when you read through the open-ended question comments. And even though they've been constraining to try and manage the price increases, especially of lumber, but now everyone's hearing about steel and siding. Availability is kind of a balance between availability and price, but most folks are saying, like, if you can just get it to me, I'll pay whatever. But that's kind of changed the tune a little bit to be we're basically going to constrain the releases, and I got pictures of our consultants. We have consultants in every market that go and comp. They talk to the sales agents and take pictures and all that stuff. And we have pictures from 2 communities in the South of a sign on the window that says, we're not releasing anything more. Nothing's for sale. Basically, come back in the fall. So that is not only has to do with the housing inventory, but they're just literally not releasing the lots. Now, those still show up in starts. That's why the starts data is so misleading. They may have foundations.
Hang on for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that an empty lot that they get a permit for is going to show up as a start, basically?
No, they will report starts once they have a foundation, but they're not going to release that for sale.
So they have foundations in the ground
Mm-hmm.
that they're not putting sticks on.
Right, exactly. And some of that has to do with permit timing, because there's an expiry date and so forth. But all of those are being held. So like that's when the starts start to get counted, right? We have permits are up, because there's this sort of expectation that this is going to continue through the year, and if we could figure out the coordination issues with lumber and so forth, then they will start to increase their community counts and their starts per community. But right now, they got a foundation in the ground. Even if it's pre-inspection, whatever, it might be totally on hold until they get the price, either the price is in line or start being able to have people qualify better and get the appraisals caught up. There just needs to be enough comps to appraise, and some communities are struggling with that because of the price increases.
Walk me through this real quick.
Yep.
I'm about 50% caught up with you. Okay, so the appraiser goes in and
Yep.
he looks at comps, comparable sales. What's the lag of a comparable sale data in the market? How many months behind is it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So it's running about 90 to 120 days to get
Okay.
enough within that certain mileage. Now those places just have to close, but if it's a fairly new community, it could be 90 to 120 days. The other ones, like if it's been established master plan community, they've been seeing these price increases incrementally for the last year plus, and a lot of those would be caught up. But it's the newer communities that are struggling because there's nothing in the existing housing stock around that will support the square foot price.
All right. Okay. So I walk in to buy a house in this community, and the person selling the house, the big home builder, wants me to get a mortgage, but the only mortgage I can get for that house, which is probably going to deliver in, let's say it delivers in 90 days, I can get a mortgage based off of the price of the house 90 days earlier. So now we've got a 180-day gap, basically, from when the house is going to be delivered to the comp that's being used. And with the escalation in home prices, what you're saying is people can't get a mortgage for what the price of the home needs to sell at because of lumber costs.
Well, they can qualify for the mortgage. They can lock it in. They have a contract. But by the time the appraisal, that's not based off an appraisal necessarily, just based off of, a sell price. By the time it goes to close, then they could have to come up with more money if the bank sends out an appraiser and they just can't get it to comp. And it's not a lot. Like most of the communities that we were in, there's people having to come up with like, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. So it's not a huge amount, but for in the like entry level space, that's a problem.
Got it. Okay, so I'm a home builder and I got concrete in the ground, and I go, I'm just not going to sell this house right now that's scheduled to be built. I'm not going to build a backlog at this price point, knowing that my margin has just gotten squeezed because my lumber costs, my material costs are that much higher. Is that kind of going on too?
Yes, and it's not just material. It is like Ash brought up, the labor and logistics. Probably what we've seen when we do our survey, we ask about the 4 L's, which is labor, logistics, lots, and lumber, and those sort of shuffle every month. But right now it's labor is the top one, and last month it was lumber. So those have shifted a little bit to be, okay, we know what lumber has to be. It's not all the lumber prices that are holding things up. It's a kind of a composite problem. But go ahead.
Yesterday on Matt's call, he was talking about the capacity, which including the 4 L's you just talked about, has us, I think his number was like 1.3, 1.4 million houses, and the demand is for 1.7. Are you seeing something along that same line? Like they could sell 1.7 million houses. And actually, I think what Matt said was they did sell at a rate of 1.7 million.
Yeah, definitely. When you're looking at like the annualized rate, they could build, around that, where we're at right now, like 1.3, 1.4, which is kind of where it's tracking for this year. But which is not sustainable, really. It's just kind of like maxing out every single cylinder with like a little nitrous in it. But of course, we know how hard that is on the engine. So but there's just no human capacity. There's not enough human capacity to knock out the rest. You could probably figure out some of the material coordination issues over the next 6 to 8 months. It's the more chronic issue is the labor. And even logistics, there's a challenge getting new trucks right now, and rail is a challenge. You guys know that better than I do. But the people component, every level you need people. You can't automate everything. So it's becoming more of an issue at least in our survey results, than the lumber prices.
So what about, let's talk supply for a second. Do you have your finger on the pulse? Do you anticipate that there will be more supply, like permanent, more, permanently available more lumber supply on the market moving forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's eventually going to happen. I think we were hoping that we would see more come online in the next, 8 to 12 months. But there just haven't that, unless there's something super sneaky happening out there in terms of commissioning. We just haven't seen, we don't see that, in terms of on the harvesting side and the mill supply side. One of the challenges is if you can't get logs to the mills, you can't add shifts. None of that matters, and there just needs to be more investment in the woods than there is right now. And the good thing is we're having conversations with big PE money about how do they get logging operations set up. So that's good, but that takes time. So to get to where we need to get on starts and actual completions, and that another thing that's been affected is cycle times, roughly like 25 to 28% longer than normal, just because of these challenges.
Cycle time on how long it takes to build a house.
Right. So like when you look at the authorization to completion, that time, and not counting the sales, obviously that's like off the table because there really isn't a holding time, but that off to completion has increased quite a bit. So that could help a little bit actually, if the builders are that's increasing, and kind of the labor ends up being the bottleneck, and then over time that could give us some constrained demand. But that's not what everyone's saying is going to happen. All of our builders are saying they're going to increase community count, which is down almost 10% from last year. Right now, community count's down because inventory is shot, right? But they're going to increase community count by 14% by the end of the year.
What is community count?
That's the number of new communities.
And why is it down 10%?
They sold out.
Oh.
Yeah, they're sold out.
And they didn't have the 4Ls to do more.
Yeah, exactly. So and then not only are community counts going to increase, but builders are planning on going from somewhere around like 3 homes per community per month to 4.3, 4.5. And so if they're projecting that, and the question is, can we build it, right? So
something doesn't compute there. We're talking,
yeah, exactly.
4Ls. How do you go from 3 to 4.5 if the 4Ls won't let you do it?
One thing where we are seeing, I have a theory now that we don't have there's no data to back this up, but one of the things we've been talking about a lot, because we've been asked a lot about consolidation. We get a lot involved in M&A deals, mostly on the buy side. And people are asking us, well, about capacity issues. And this consolidation could, in the market, which has been happening, will happen even more at a faster pace, could, I wouldn't say uncover shadow inventory, but I think that if we were to put all of the lumber in the United States in a pile, we probably have enough to do what we need to do. The problem is right now it's in a million different places. There's no visibility or transparency. I know materials exchange, visibility, transparency, technology, efficiency, price discovery. Obviously, that's hugely needed. But after it's already in the market, you lose that visibility. And we have clients that are renting warehouses for lumber, and we have LBM folks that are trying to build their inventory. We do an LBM survey. One's in the field now. Our other one came back a couple of weeks ago, and everyone is trying to build inventory. Like, not, I don't say everyone, but like a large majority of the respondents, they want to build inventory. They're doing everything they can to build inventory.
That's interesting. That's a theory that Ashley has as well. And we are seeing it. Like, we are bringing on some users onto the platform that are not LBM dealers, and they have warehouses, and they're like, the the supply chain has broken down for them. It's just
Right.
that easy. And they can't afford to be told, I'm sorry, I don't have product. So they're putting
Yeah.
it into a warehouse. So it's almost like a security blanket, really.
Yeah. Yeah. The upstream and downstream communication it's gotten better, but it's still multi-layered, right? So, the challenge for LBMs is they don't see what they're losing by all these folks setting up basically their own distribution. There's a build for rent company and developer in Memphis. They have their own warehouse. There's another BFR company in Charlotte. They're doing their own warehouse. They're just not going to. There's tons of cash. People are just like SPAC, cash, sovereign wealth fund, whatever it is. They're just like, we need these built. And so you're seeing a lot. I think there is a lot of shadow inventory out there, and with some coordination issue kind of reset, I think that that could loosen up some of those things. But that's not happening now. That's probably more of a fall thing. A lot of our builders feel the same way. They feel like things were going to loosen up by the fourth quarter, and they'll be able to achieve those community count and those homes per community started per month by the fourth quarter. So there's some bullishness in that to be able to achieve the closings that they need to achieve. Because a lot of them are saying their closings are down. Most of these folks are paid on closings. They need these,
But I think we stole from the future a little bit in how fast and hot it ran, say, the prior 12 months.
I think there's a general feeling, we're not saying that, but I think there's a general feeling in the media and amongst some economists that we have borrowed from the future in different ways. But the thing we got to remember is the demand for housing. When you look at the demographics, even though we've had a little bit of housing consolidation or household consolidation, that we're still in need. We need to be building 400,000 or 500,000 more homes a year than we are, and we're projecting single family housing starts to go up 35% by 2024. But that's barely a dent in what's needed demographically. So
let's shift gears for just a second, because look, we could talk for 2 hours about this.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to talk about the unit itself that's being built today.
Yep.
And how you anticipate that unit changing. And if you could touch on that build for rent, I think that is something 99% of the people don't know about. So first off, and when I say the unit being built, in early 2000s was the McMansion, right? The average size of the house was, 35,000 square feet or whatever. What do we need today, or what's being built today? And is it being built understanding the constraints in supply? That's kind of a leading question, but what do you think of that?
Well, we definitely seen square footage of home drop precipitously in terms of homes sold. Now, of course, when the Fed reports on that, or the census reports on that, we're capturing that number, including existing housing stock, which is 65% of the market. But it's been dropping and it's still looking for a bottom. And so that helps somewhat with material usage, right?
Give me perspective of how far it's dropped, like say from 2000.
Oh yeah, I think they just printed. I'll pull it up while we're talking. I don't know if you guys ever get to look at the Fred database, but it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit of a rabbit hole, but it's the St. Louis Fed report.
You're really showing your housing nerdiness when you say it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I'll pull that up right now. So we also run we have our New Home Trends Institute. A lot of the builders subscribe to that, so that we do a lot of consumer research, and we find that younger families, which is the largest oncoming cohort for both new construction for sale, and then somewhat for single family for rent, but also they have a similar kind of interesting tie to boomers. Boomers are wanting more single family for rent, and then the young families on the for sale side, they're okay with the smaller home that has enough like workspace and school space for the kids, but lots of outdoor space. So you could see this growing trend of okay, median home size in square feet in the US. Okay. So you could see a growing trend, and we're actually seeing it, of more investment in the outdoor space than in the square footage of the home. Now that's another problem for appraisers, because they also don't know what to do with that a lot of times, because they're so focused on the square footage price, right? So and we're seeing more kind of micro amenities that would normally be in a clubhouse and in a community or something like that are being brought into the home, say for workout and stuff like that. But a lot of the kind of key things have remained. Wall heights pretty much still have stayed 9 and 10 foot on the basement, 8 or 9 foot on or the first level, 8 or 9 foot on the second level. One thing that's changed with roofs a lot is the lower slope roof that uses obviously a lot less sheathing than a higher slope roof, or a lot of one
What's
slope.
that? Why would the lower slope roof, just to reduce the material needed?
Yeah,
It's more actually aesthetic. The outcome is that it uses less material, but the aesthetic is more that modern home look.
Okay.
So actually, give you an idea on square footage. June 2020, median home size square feet in the United States, 1,886.5 square feet.
Okay.
In March 2021, 1,715.
Oh, wow.
Right. Now we just had a little bump up, 1,722, so up 7 square feet per home. But
Do they go far? Can you go back to like 2000?
the farthest it goes back is 2016. So they don't go back that far.
Or was it in 2016?
It was 1804, and then it increased, and now it's dropped quite a bit below that. So when you do that, you end up you use more percentage of the home per square foot of material, but your overall nut goes down. So so there are some thoughts about that. So we have some builders talking about doing unfinished spaces for sweat equity and so forth. We have builders talking about reducing wall heights in some cases, different things. And some of that is being driven by siding. So siding is in short supply right now.
What's the number one item in short supply, in your opinion?
Oh man. Well, I know steel just came out. I think that's going to be pretty short-lived. In short supply, not counting the price, I think that we're going to have a siding problem.
What's the number one siding material today? Is it
Fiber cement. And one of the challenges with fiber cement is the fiber. It's got to be a special species, and it's spun a certain way. This fiber is, because it kind of acts as the rebar in the siding, and that's been difficult for people to source. So
is there an alternative to it?
Not relative to cost. No. In fact, I think they would, the siding manufacturers just as soon reduce production than to replace that, because I mean that's the world I come from. There's nothing out there that doesn't triple the cost. That's the highest cost input for fiber cement siding. Now, LP had a banner report for siding, but a lot of that's because people couldn't get fiber cement. LP also doesn't own a large portion of the market, but they did have great profits, and they shipped quite a bit more than they normally do in Q1. But we could have that derivative from the log for fiber that could pose an issue for siding.
Can you touch on the build for rent?
Yeah. Let me touch on that.
Long term on that.
Mm-hmm. The long term is that is not going away. I think it'll increase against home ownership, and part of that is demographic. demands. Part of it is affordability. Part of it's flexibility, but also part of it is the money that's coming into that space. There's very innovative. They're very innovative operators. They're very curious about new technologies. They have a different. So when you're a builder, you're basically building the home to get rid of the lot, right? So, and when you're doing multifamily, you're building a multifamily building to sell it, to increase the net operating income and all the metrics so that you can sell it for a profit in 5 to 7 years. Folks that are developing new construction, purpose-built for rent communities, they're looking at net zero, they're looking at passive house, they're going to own these for 10 to 30 years. Some say that 50 years is their time horizon. They want to invest all the money now because they don't want to have to do capital calls along the way for maintenance. So they have plenty of money, access to cash now, so they want to build it right now, even if they have to take a lower yield, because over time that yield number is pretty substantial. We're seeing rent growth, and we're projecting rent growth really substantially, even over where it is right now.
So if I'm a build for rent guy, how's, lumber prices are where they're at. Do I go, let's go on vacation for 3 months and see what happens?
No,
or are they just plowing through?
They don't care. Now we have seen, so multifamily has been really affected. There are many projects on hold right now with multifamily because their pro formas are completely, their underwriting is completely different than single family build for rent. And they have to look at things over a 5-year time period. If they, if they're investing this money now in a project, then it's really expensive, and then we have all this multifamily coming online, and they're not able to protect their net operating income, then they could be holding that property and which they don't want to do, or sell it at a loss, which they don't want to do. So they're just holding right now. The last time their underwriting made sense was September and October. And we've heard that across the board. But build for rent, they don't care. They're more about getting the product built. They're more think of like say Starbucks or something like that. That Starbucks, when they build something, they're less concerned about cost than the location, getting it done quickly, and staying true to the brand. These single family build for rent folks, they're building a branded home, and they need to stay true to that brand. They need to stay true to that kind of the aesthetic and the maintenance and the healthy living and all that whole story that they're building, 200, 300, 400, 500 homes in a community that are all rental homes.
Let's bounce back to that multifamily.
Yep.
If multifamily they're usually about 30% of housing starts, correct?
Right.
So I'm going to hold you to this. Give me the number of multifamily projects that have been put on hold. What percentage do you think?
Oh man, I know the number I personally know about is probably close to 20.
20%?
No, 20 projects. I wouldn't say, I don't think I could put a percent on it. That we just don't have visibility on it, but we hear it through our surveys.
And what do you think their hold period could be? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it, what can they do?
I think it's going to be a combination of, they need to get somewhere close to where we were in Q4 in terms of their strike price for lumber. Mostly lumber is what they're concerned about. And that's also lining up with, it's been hard to get their labor lined up, because while these projects are on hold or they're delayed a little bit, that labor goes somewhere else, right? And then it's hard to get those folks back. So that what they need to do is align with the labor timeline. They need to get somewhat close to where Q4 was in terms of prices. And then they need to get some efficiency gains. So they need to work in some other form of structural componentization of, I'm not saying prefab, but some way to reduce the amount of sheathing on a project, or or change the spacing, or even little gains they can make will make a huge difference. Reducing the blocking, those sort of things, they can actually make a huge difference on apartment building because there's so much fire blocking and so forth. So so when they're looking at that, if they can get if they can align with the labor, they can get get somewhat close, 10-15% from where we were in like November, something like that, in terms of lumber. And then get some, a lot of them are working on redrawing their plans right now.
Okay.
So if they can do all those, they could still start those this year.
Sounds good. So would it be safe to say that demand is starting to slow a little bit?
On multifamily?
Just
Yeah.
overall, like your finger on the pulse, would you say we could be slowing up just a little?
I think, yeah, we could be slowing up a little more in multifamily and single family, and more in for sale single family than for rent single family.
Okay. My last question is one that I ask everyone. What's something that Tim Seims sees in the market, or just that you see that no one else sees, that you think is you're kind of keeping your eye on, that maybe, long-term horizon, short-term, just what's something you're seeing that you find interesting?
I think the most interesting is back in the build for rent space, and some of it ties to sort of what we're seeing more in the forestry habits and how people are looking at wildfires, and how that ties to mass timber, the mass timber story. We're working with one company that's trying to do mass timber for single family. And we also connect them with a build for rent operator that wants to do mass timber in a passive house design for single family build for rent, which 10 years ago, we would have never been having that conversation. And so what I'm keeping my eye on is there a connection between 3D construction and mass timber, which is a form of 3D construction, for this particular space that is going to jumpstart efficiency, human capital, raw materials, responsible usage, and actually a new product of a home. I think that is going to come out of that space. And
that's so cool. I'm in your camp on that. I'm keeping an eye on that as well. That's really fun stuff. Tim, thank you. This we could have gone on for hours for sure. This was so valuable. I know that you love to interact with people in the industry. So if you want to get in touch with Tim, he will talk to you. He will get you on his survey list for sure. John Burns Real Estate. Look, this is a digital world. You can find him. The last thing I want to do, and this just got decided on, we are going to have a trivia question. Whoever answers this trivia question first, we're going to send this awesome Materials Exchange mug to. So don't go anywhere. The question is, you can use Google. You can't answer it if you are a Materials Exchange person. Is get yourself off of mute. What is the largest single stem tree on Earth? The largest single stem tree on Earth right now. You got to be off of mute to tell me. There's a name. The name of the largest single stem tree on Earth.
Harry Heath.
General Sherman.
That's it. General Sherman. General Sherman is estimated to be 2,300 to 2,700 years old. It's out in California. It's a giant sequoia, not the tallest tree. I looked this up. I think there are like 25 truckloads of lumber in that. It's insane. It's a massive tree. So we will send this to Terry. Thank you, Terry, for the answer. That wraps it up for me, Paul. Back to you.
I'm going to be popular at the next cocktail party because I'm going to quote that there's 25 truckloads of these General Sherman trees, and we're going to cut down as many of those damn trees as we can right now. That'll be a popular position that I'll take. Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Tim, very much. That was fascinating. As we always say, next week's our upcoming guests in our speaker series, we've got Tim Atkinson from Stinson Lumber Company, Todd DeWalt from the Construction Leading Edge the week after that. Thank you all for coming. It was a wonderful session. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Oh, and don't forget our upcoming conference. Sorry, I had one more slide. Our upcoming conference in Chicago, our first live event in Chicago. You'll be seeing all sorts of stuff about this over the summer. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye, guys.